Okay, we're live.
Good evening. Welcome to September 21st. Sorry. Oh, good. Meeting of the Eureka Springs Historic District Commission. I'm Steve Holofield, Chair. Kyle, you please call roll.
Judy Holden.
Here.
Maggie Haight.
Here.
Steve Holofield.
Here.
Kyle Palmer's present. Marty Kogan. Dee Bright and Peter Graham are absent with notice.
Thank you. We have a quorum for business. The Eureka Springs Historic District Commission is empowered by the Eureka Springs Municipal Code to issue a certificate of appropriateness for the alterations of exterior architectural features, demolition, and new construction with the historic district. We use the Eureka Springs Historic District Design Guidelines and the U.S. Secretary of Interior standards for the treatment of historic properties as the basis for our decisions. The Commission can take the following actions on an application: approval with modifications, denial, or deferral for more information. Appeal of denial may be made to the Circuit Court. Public comments on agenda items will be heard as each item is called. Other comments will be heard during the public comment period. Are there any changes for tonight's agenda? Nope. Do I hear a motion?
I move to approve the agenda as proposed.
Second.
Kyle made the motion and Maggie seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, say no. 4-0 carries. So, we got approval agenda, old business, number 1, level 3, 28 Lima demolition. There is no new business. So we'll stop right there and deal with number 1, level 3, 28 Lima demolition. Mr. Turner?
Good evening, Commissioners. Thanks for entertaining us again. We've done a lot of work since our last meeting. We've contacted...
Sorry, would you introduce yourself just for the record?
My name is Kent Turner. I'm Vice Chairman of the Eureka Springs Hospital Commission.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
I should know that. We've made a lot of phone calls. We've talked to a lot of people, and unfortunately, the word is not good. We can't find anybody that's even interested in moving the house. We could, I say that in general, could have it moved by a crane. The problem is if you do a crane, it literally has to be picked up and then just set down, and that is horribly, horribly expensive, even if we had a place for it. We did check with Parks and Rec. Parks and Rec does not want the building anywhere. The problem that seems to exist is that you can't get the house out of where it sets. It sets down and you can't get it up on the road, and even if you got it up on the road, then the roads are not wide enough to move the house in any direction. To get it, you'd have to get it out to 62 for it to be movable. We had a discussion with Arlie Weems and his son, who I'm sure you all know. They just said they don't do that anymore, but they said they just didn't see any way possible that anybody could get it out of there and have it any kind of credibility. We did talk to somebody that deconstructs and reconstructs. His position was that there's not enough uniqueness to the house that anybody would pay the cost to deconstruct it and then reconstruct somewhere else, similar to what they did with the Queen Anne. My architect was supposed to be here tonight because I wanted to make sure that you all knew what links we had gone to before we came to this decision. I'm not sure where he's at, but I assure you that we've gone to considerable lengths to try to do something to put the hospital in a different position, and there's just nowhere else we can go with it. We'd have to, if we moved to the other side of the street on Norris, you're talking about we'd have to literally buy a bunch of property that I just imagine my words saying that tonight, those houses would be going up in price immensely right now. It's the only place where we own land and the only place where we can feasibly build the hospital and continue to keep the hospital open.
Okay.
I would be happy to try to answer any questions that you might have.
Do I have a motion?
I move that the Historic District Commission issue a certificate of appropriateness for the work at 28 Lima as proposed.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Judy made the motion and Kyle seconded it. Open for discussion. Yes, ma'am?
Did you advertise in any of the local papers that this house was available for moving?
No, we did not, but we actually asked people that were in that business, we actually told them that we would give them the house for nothing if they would move it, and they're not interested, they weren't interested at all. We did not advertise in the newspaper, though, we did not.
You have a gentleman just walked in as the architect.
Yeah, he sure is, he sure is.
Does he have something he wants to add to this?
Well, I'll see in just a second, but just to continue on, our problem is we couldn't find anybody that would be willing to move it, that said that was possible to move, even if we gave it away to somebody.
Okay. Any other comments, questions?
I would like to just ask Kylie, so speaking for myself and my thoughts, although I do support what the hospital is trying to do here, I feel like I'm obligated to say no to the application, but allow the process to continue, which he does have the option to appeal that decision. I don't know if that's kind of a route we're looking for.
I mean, what you're tasked with as the HDC is to evaluate really you have to weigh this project. Is it more beneficial to the community and the integrity of the historic district to retain this building that is only significant for its context in the district? If it's moved, it loses that context and it's no longer significant. If it's demolished, obviously the outcome is the same. We know from looking at the history of alterations that this building has been modified fairly substantially, especially on the facade, which also impacts its integrity. So this is a really difficult decision for you all, but I would encourage you to really carefully consider the individual significance of this structure and the value that it brings to the community in comparison to what the Hospital Commission is hoping to bring to the community with the hospital expansion. They do have the option, if the HDC denied this, to appeal to circuit court. That would probably just prolong this process both for the commission and for the Hospital Commission and their endeavors here. And I don't know that the outcome would be different, to be quite honest.
I'd like to make a comment. I know as chair, I'm just running this meeting, but in our training, one of the myths they say about historic districts that no historic home can be torn down, demolished. And actually, they can be. That's a myth. If it needs to be done because of reasons beyond, the historical factor, then it can be done. It's not. What I'm saying, it's not automatic with the historic home. It cannot be demolished. It can be. We can get permission for that to happen. And I think that's what I keep remembering my training going. When the top myths are,
Yeah.
you can't tear down a historic home. Yes, you can. Even if you had an individual home, you ain't got that plaque to put on the front of it. If something happens, you can ask for permission to demolish that. So.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times in communities where you do see community support for demolition of an otherwise intact but not individually significant building are in cases like this where public welfare, health, safety kind of wins out over that specific property. That doesn't feel good as preservationists. That's really yucky. But, you have a duty to the historic district and also to the citizens that live here, so.
Connie, I'd like to ask a question. I was not here last time.
Could you move your mic up a little closer, please?
I wasn't here last time, so I'm assuming, until you tell me differently tonight, that we're addressing this again because they came back with the intent to get a certificate of approval with the appropriate modifications that you asked for.
Yeah, would you all like me to just go over the architectural description and summary of facts?
I mean, I read as much as
Okay.
I possibly could, but what I don't have, I don't think, is what you asked them to look for, other than the selling of the property or the,
We asked them to go
Move-
back and try
move
their
it.
best to try it, see if they could give it away to have it moved.
is it more detailed than that?
No, that was
That's
essentially,
not-
yeah. The commission essentially tabled the application. It was denied
Yes.
at the last meeting, and they requested that the hospital commission explore further other options for relocating the building. That was the main ask. In Mr. Turner's original application, he did emphasize that they were seeking to deconstruct the house so the materials could be reused by community members, rather than just demolish it and put everything in a landfill.
Thank you.
So have you found someone to reuse the materials?
We've found people that have said they would be interested in materials if they became available. What we intend to do is, if we get approval, what we intend to do is advertise the house to be deconstructed and for the materials. We would be willing to do the same thing. We would be willing to give the house to anyone here in town that wanted to deconstruct it for the materials. Now, if nobody wants that, then we'll have to hire a contractor to come in and deconstruct it and then use the materials. Now, I'm being told by everybody I talk to that there is a need for those materials. I don't have a historic house myself, so I don't know that that's the case. I do sell real estate, so I will tell you that I know how people are always looking for different types of material for the older houses so that they can stay with the same siding, for instance, or they can stay with the same interiors that they may have molding and things like that.
So what materials specifically are they interested in?
I've heard a lot of people talk about they're interested in the siding because they have a hard time finding the siding that matches the siding for historic buildings. I've also heard some people say that they're interested in the rough house, I don't know the right terms. It's the rough hewn wood that's inside the buildings that they can use to replace that same wood in their buildings because they more match in size than the newer types of 2x4s do, for instance.
A 2x4 now is not a 2x4.
Yeah, if you get a rough hewn 2x4 out of one of those buildings, you can better use it in your historic home.
In that purple house, there are no architecturally significant accoutrements that somebody who's restoring a historical house would be able to use, because there's nothing in there.
I'm looking at Barbara. She's saying no. I don't know that we've done a detailed inventory of that, but we would certainly do that when we ask people to do the deconstruction. I haven't seen any historic items in the house that call my attention to it. For instance, there's no large, huge stained glass windows in there or anything.
Those windows are not the original windows.
The windows themselves, the actual windows, people would be interested in having.
Indoors.
And doors.
And doors, yes. Always windows and doors. I'm sorry, I just bounced right over there. But people are always interested in those single pane windows and always interested in the doors.
I think there are only 3 doors in that house.
Okay, any more discussion? All right, for the level 3, 28 Lima.
I have another question.
Okay.
How did you arrive at this service area?
How did we arrive at where we're going to put the building?
On page 7, you've indicated a service area for the hospital.
Kent, she's referring to the
I
map that you
understand.
submitted.
We actually had the mayor's office put that together for us. We did that independently. We didn't want to be accused. We used that in a lot of places. So the mayor's office actually put that information together for us, based upon their knowledge of the areas. What we did is they tried to get the shortest distance to the hospital from all areas, from a hospital from all areas.
Leaving out the modern Berryville Hospital. Because I would think that.
There is the modern Berryville Hospital. That comes into play. But I will tell you, some of our facilities are better than the Berryville Hospital.
Okay, that's really not
Yeah.
for our purview to talk about what's appropriate, if it's appropriate hospital or not. So we're going to go ahead and move on to unless you have something else to say, we're going to go ahead and move on to the vote.
Well, I'm Tom Johnson, and I'm the architect working on the project.
Can you speak into the mic, sir?
Okay, sure, thank you. And I apologize for got tied up a little bit over in Fayetteville before I got over here. The way we have arrived at trying to reuse this particular site is really because of the fact it's a critical access hospital. We're within closer than 35 miles to two other hospitals. I've got a map here if I can kind of approach and give you that.
No, I don't, anybody want to see this? I'm sorry.
This will explain the crossroads and how
I know the hospital's been struggling for years to.
Yeah, well, and
Get
what you'll
this
see on that map is, I think it's the red dots are different places that you've looked at replacing the hospital with a new replacement facility within this area. Well, one of the rules that we're up against is it's got to be 35 miles from another hospital that's a critical access hospital, but in a mountainous area, they allow you to drop that to 15 miles. And so I've drawn a couple of radiuses on there that shows basically how the area overlaps, and Eureka Springs is right in the middle between Cassville and Berryville. Well, we have to go all the way out to almost Leatherwood Park in order to find a location that you could build a new hospital and then keep your critical access. Or you can stay right there on the site we are right now and develop it at that site, but it has to be operational the full time. You can't move away, tear it down, build a new one. You have to work with the existing facility, and you can't move out of the existing facility as part of their rules. And so it's kind of a dilemma. But if you pushed 15 miles out, and one of the sites that I think that someone else has looked at, Allegiance, I think, or Alliance, that was 15.2 miles from the city by road, and that qualifies. But there's no utilities out there. And in a hospital, obviously, you have to have utilities. And not only do you have to have utilities, you want to have redundant utilities if you can. In case something gets cut off on one side, you've got a way to backfeed into it. So I don't want to, anyway, just to not get overly detailed, but that's why we started looking at how can we make this site work. And then, of course, we've got a limited amount of area. We've gone through and talked to all the departments, and I've got, program information of every single space in the hospital, and we got several pages. We've gone through every single department, and we've calculated that right now the existing hospital is at 23,000 square feet, and what's needed for a community is somewhere in the neighborhood between 60 to 68,000 square feet, and the proposal that we've made is about 64,000 square feet. And of course, it's in zoning diagrams. When we get into the actual plan, hopefully we can squeeze that down, but some things may grow. So that's how we landed with what we have. So we've got the existing hospital, we've got a new wing that's going out to the, see, that'd be to the west, and that's where we're talking about the Purple House. And then, of course, we're looking at the back part of the hospital, too, at later phases. So the wing going out to the west is actually a 3-story wing. And the wing on the other side would be a 2-story wing, like similar to what we have now. But then we're also filling in the courtyard. And then at the last phase, the third phase, would be to renovate the existing spaces and after we move ER and radiology and everybody else out of the old hospital into the new. So looking at the site, there was just, there was not enough space on top of the hill area. I'm pushing the boundaries and going out as far as I thought I could get away with on the slope of this hill, and to not get the retaining walls too high to make this site work. And so it was a dilemma. It was a dilemma for me. It's been several years since I've been in front of this committee, but my firm was here since 1990. And I've done probably 30 projects, you know, in either completed project or planned projects in the historic district. And this is the very first time I've ever been here saying, you know, in order for us to do this for the health care of the community, that little house is in the way. And so, you know, unfortunately, I'm here asking if we could raise that house in order to continue on with the health care of the community. Because we're basically needing to triple the size of the hospital that you have right now. You're vastly under square footage on virtually every single department. And we've looked at each one of those departments, and we've looked at net differences and how far, you know, how far you're deficient. So, you know, I'm sorry to ask for that, but I think that's really the only way to get that done. And we really can't afford to lose the critical access on the status on the hospital. I mean, Mercy is doing it for both Cassville and for Berryville, and so it's obviously an important mechanism to make these real community hospitals work. And that's what's been making our hospital work, and why we still have one, where a lot of folks have lost theirs. And so, if you got any other questions, but that's kind of how we got there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what is your timeline after you tear down the house?
Well, basically we're working on developing drawings right now. We're going to trying to get we'll get a 35% set complete to take to Washington D.C. in order for grants. Also look at the state grants.
Sure, it's
Ken Turner is really
one step at
the
a
guy
time,
to ask
right?
about all that. But
That's fine.
yeah.
All right. Any other questions, comments? So level 3, 28 Lima demolition, a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say no. All opposed, say no.
No.
Okay. And I vote, so it's 4-1 that it passes. So,
Thank you.
Hope they staff the hospital.
Ken, if you want to wait just 1 second, I'll get you your certificate.
Consent agenda, level 1 and 2 projects the city preservation officer believes to be in accordance with the design guidelines.
Ridiculous.
Any commissioner or member of the public may move any consent agenda item to the regular agenda for discussion. Tonight, there's no, or just that one consent agenda item. Yeah, number 1, level 131 East Van Buren, non-contributing cargo container for storage. Administrative approvals by city preservation officer. Minor impact projects include ordinary maintenance that does not involve a change of materials, new and replacement signs, alterations to non-contributing and/or non-historic structures, excluding major additions or demolition, medium impact projects that meet design guidelines. These are all listed on the website. So, and do we make a move? We don't make a vote on administrative approvals, do we? Always get confused.
No, just consent agenda.
Okay. So, and we initial those and vote on them? Okay. Do I hear a motion for consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda as proposed.
Second.
Kyle made the motion, Maggie seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, say no. 4-0 carries. And as they're saying, administrative approvals are listed on that website, anybody wants to look at. Commission business, approval of minutes from September 7th, 2022, regular meeting.
I move to approve the minutes from the September 2nd, 2022 meeting.
Do I hear a second? Judy?
Second?
And Maggie can't vote because she wasn't here. All in favor of accepting the minute meetings, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. 4-0. August Treasurer's Report, Maggie Haid.
As of today, $8,382.93.
I move to approve the August Treasurer's Report as presented.
Second?
What was the amount again?
$8,382.93.
Kyle made the motion, Judy seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Appealing HDC decisions. So being proactive in the appealing HDC decisions, I'd like to form a committee to meet with the city attorney and maybe one of the city council members. So I'd like 2 other members of the commission that would volunteer to give a little bit of time. Anybody interested?
I will.
Okay. I will ask our 2 members who are not here in case one of them wants to. Okay. Next meeting, October 5th, 2022, Level 3 applications due Thursday, September 22nd. Level 2 applications due Wednesday, September 28th. Agenda setting for October 5th, 2022. Anybody have anything wanted to add to the agenda right now, or you can let Kylie know in advance? Yep. And there weren't any public comments, were there, Kylie?
No.
Commissioner comments, we'll start with Judy.
No comments?
Maggie?
No.
Kyle?
No comments.
Okay. Marty?
No.
Okay. No comments. I'd like to thank everybody for participating and being here and volunteering, giving your time. We do appreciate it, of course. Director comments?
I do have a comment, and I'm going to read it so I don't cry. As the commissioners and some of the public know, last week I submitted my resignation effective mid-October. I want to emphasize what a difficult decision this has been for me, both professionally and personally. By all accounts, this should have been an ideal partnership, me being a qualified, experienced historic preservation professional, and this an absolute gem of a historic town. I've struggled with the disparity between my high expectations for this role and the experience that I've had, and I'm so disappointed that this is the outcome. However, I'm happy with the achievements of this commission and my office during our time together. I'm especially pleased with the new design guidelines that will help homeowners become stewards of their historic properties. I'm also very proud to see new leaders emerging who will move this commission forward, and I wish you the best in your future work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kylie.
Thank you.
And I hear a motion for adjournment.
I move that we adjourn the meeting.
Judy made the motion, Maggie seconded it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Our meeting is adjourned.